Good evening. The time is 6:08. Welcome to the December 2nd, 2025 regular meeting of the Stoughton School Committee. This meeting is being recorded by SMAC for future broadcasting. If you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. I'd like to read our norms. Agree to disagree, assume positive intent, be outcome-driven, be prepared, be respectful, celebrate our wins, district and each other's, challenge the issue, not the person, have fun, manage time wisely, put students first, resolve the issues during the meeting, speak from one's own perspective, speak with one voice. Do we have any public comments?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the public comment I received, if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we had a person who came in who was not able to come in during the public comment. So therefore, I received this email communication at 4:20 this afternoon. I'd like to record it to the record from Ms. Small. It says, thank you for responding to my message. I am if I'm comprehending the message correctly, you state you must be present precisely during the public comment time. However, please enter this into the record. I request that you indicate on the record my discontent with the selection of the new South School location on Park Street. I believe the new edifice should be built on the existing location of the present South School, David Fisher Way. The toxic environment of firearms in the United States of America makes the open Main Street location a sitting duck for possible unsavory firearms activity. Thank you for putting my request on the record. If I may receive acknowledgement of my request, I would be grateful. Please also inform me of the next school committee meeting. Sincerely, J. Small. I'd like to enter that into the record as well. I'll make a copy.
Thank you. Okay, let's go into new business.
The comment on that? So I did speak to Ms. Small. She did give me a call today. She did want to come here and say that herself, but we used to have school committee meetings at 7, and that made it easier for people to be able to come in after work in order to be here and present, to be able to speak for themselves and not have their email kind of read through quickly by someone else. So I just want to put that on the record as well, that there was a reason why we used to have school committee meetings at 7. It was for the convenience of the public, not the convenience of committee members, certain committee members.
Okay, thank you for the comment. Let's proceed to our new businesses. ELL update, Dr. Quayle.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Amy Quayle. I'm the multilingual director for Stoughton, pre-K through 12. And last year, I came and gave an update to the committee, and I'd like to do the same this year. I first would like to introduce you to our new assistant director, Elizabeth Dupree. We were so lucky. I have had the pleasure of working with Elizabeth for more than 10 years at least. She was a director in Abington Public Schools, and we worked together several years ago, so we're very lucky to have her here in Stoughton. Just to give you an idea of where we're at, especially since the local emergency shelters closed last year, you all can recall we welcomed 175 plus students when we had the 2 shelters here in Stoughton. So we weren't really sure how we were going to pan out. Currently, right now, we are only 75 students less than where we were at our highest. At the shelter. So we're right about where we were in 2013 with 600 English learners and former English learners in the district. The most spoken languages, really the top 3 are Portuguese, Haitian Creole, and Spanish, and we've had a real growth of Haitian Creole speakers here. As of October 1st, SIMS reported to the state we're at about 700 students in Stoughton. That's quite a substantial number of students considering our overall population who have received ESL services during their education. So you can see here on this little chart, I've been tracking our numbers since 2020. I was hired in the district in 2018. So I started taking formal numbers in 2020, and since 2020, we have had a growth rate of 54% of English learners and former English learners in just 5 years. And that's based on current numbers, not the numbers during the emergency shelters. So as you can see, we've taken a little dip this year because the shelters have closed. The building that we've had the most decrease of students in, oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, that's okay. I'm sorry. And I kind of caught you like right at the beginning, so I hate to stop your roll.
That's
But if
okay.
you could just go back and say that again, I'd really appreciate that, that the numbers have increased, not including the shelters.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
if you don't mind saying that again.
thank-
It was
sure,
real fast.
Sure. So if you look at this chart, we're at about 75 students lower than where we were at our highest with both shelters. So that shows we're still increasing despite the shelters. So we're right about where we were before the shelters opened in 2023. So I guess you could say, you know, around 600 we are right now. So we are increasing despite the shelters, yes, for sure. And we just took a small dip at the high school this year. All the other buildings are pretty on target where they were growing. Wilkins didn't even take a hit at all when the shelters closed. We were at about 100 students with the shelters, and we're at about 100 active English learners being serviced without the shelters at the Wilkins. That's our highest English learner school in the district. And that will certainly play a role when we factor in redistricting, because the Wilkins is the highest L district, and we'll have to, when we have the company come in, we'll have to really take a look at where kids are living. So I'm involved in the redistricting group as well. It just, I mean, it's hard to educate everybody on all of the state mandates, but for the identification process, how we go about identifying English learners, when parents register students, they have to fill out what's called a language survey. And if there is another language listed, we immediately get notified. It's a state mandate in law, actually in federal law, that students need to be identified and screened within 10 days of entering a public school district. It's 30 days at the beginning of the school year. They give us a little bit more time, but if they come in throughout the year. And we've also been tracking this data. As of August, we have reviewed 312 home language surveys, and we've screened 170 students. Of the 170 students, 128 have been identified as English learner, and that just really caught me. That means we are identifying 75% of all students screened. And we use what's called the WIDA screener, and that's what's mandated by the state. Oop, I don't know if I froze here. Nope, there we go. And when we talk about manpower and staffing needs, the state mandates us for any student who's a newcomer with no English at all, they need to get 90 minutes of direct English as a second language support a day, and that support needs to be given by a licensed ESL teacher. For intermediate students who are still learning English to students who exit, they're required to get 45 minutes a day. So that's a lot of manpower hours. And this is where we kind of are, well, we actually are, but our numbers are ever changing every day. But this was as of November 1st. We have a large number of level 1 and 2 students requiring 90 minutes of direct ESL services a day. And then we have intermediate students as well. And when students reach the higher levels, they no longer receive ESL, and they have to be monitored to make sure they're making effective academic progress. Like I said, our top 3 languages are Portuguese, Haitian Creole, and Spanish. And then we have about 33 other languages.
Question on how they move on from like 1, 2, 3 levels. Like, how is that determined, and how long do children typically last in each level?
Oh, good question. So I'm going to talk about the access a little bit more. So just like MCAS, that's the state test that we give all of our students. For English learners, the state mandated assessment is called Access, and we give that, we're gearing up for it now, we give that every January. So every January, we assess progress. Typically, students stay in the level 3 and 4 the longest. The state requires us to exit kids within 5 and 6 years, about. Language acquisitional theory says that it takes about 5 to 7 years to truly become fully proficient and competent in a language, but the state gives us 6 years. So they take the access every year. And usually they jump pretty quickly. Little children, especially, age of acquisition, they learn languages much quicker. But they seem to stay in the 3 or 4. And if students aren't on task to meet that targeted benchmark and become fully English proficient within 6 years, and I'll talk about that in a second, they have to have an individual language plan, somewhat like an IEP. Did that answer your question? Okay, good. So this is exactly what I was just going to talk about. So legally, EL or ESL is becoming more and more like SPED. If a student is not on task to meet that targeted benchmark and become fully English proficient, we give them an ILP, which is essentially a list of accommodations for all teachers, not just their ESL teachers, their history teachers, science teachers, to build their English proficiency across content areas, and they have a list of accommodations and strategies to do so. Right now, we have about 97 students, grades 2 through 11, who didn't meet that benchmark, so they have an ILP. And once they reach a 4.2 on that annual assessment that I've been talking about, they are reclassified as former English learners. And in the district right now, we have 175 former English learners and 91 who are no longer monitored. And by monitored, I mean we have to formally check in with every teacher of that student at least twice a year. We're doing it right now, and to make sure kids are on target to making effective progress academically and still with their English. So there's a lot of paperwork. There's another initiative that you may or may not know about, but the state is really encompassing both world language now and English as a second language because kids are learning a language. So in the triennial plan, you might have remembered, our department was going to kind of merge under one umbrella. So now Elizabeth and I are working with all the world language teachers and the ESL teachers. And actually, it's been amazing because our goal in the end is to graduate kids who are multilingual, to have a second language, whether it be English as your second language or Spanish or Portuguese or French. It's such an asset in today's world. So right now we have 25 EL personnel that does consist of 5 paras and 19 teachers and 1 part-time multilingual counselor. We'd like to get a full-time multilingual counselor if we could eventually. And then we have 19 world language teachers. And the languages we offer here in Stoughton: Spanish, Portuguese, French, Latin, Chinese, and American Sign Language. So you'll see we have 11 ESL teachers at the elementary level across the 5 buildings, 2 paras. Middle school, we have 3 ESL teachers, 5 world language, 1 para. We do have a coach who works with general ed teachers between the middle school and high school to help them accommodate, especially newcomers. And then at the high school, we have 4 ESL teachers, actually it's 12 world language teachers, a part-time counselor, and 2 paras. This is some interesting news. So a few years ago when we had the state come in, they require us to be at least 50% progress, the kids on track to be fully English proficient within that 6 years. So a few years back during COVID, we weren't meeting that 50%. Now we are. This past year, we were at 56% progress for our English learners on track to be English proficient within 6 years. And for 2024 and 2025, we were the highest performing EL district of all the districts in our southeastern hub. So that made me pretty proud because we worked hard to get that 50% and really get our kids learning English, not just at a social level, but at an academic level. So let's hope we keep that and even higher this year. Yep.
I just want you to repeat that.
Okay, yes, yeah, for the people at home. So we are the highest performing English learner district of the districts in our southeastern hub. And every month, we meet with Watertown, sometimes comes, Randolph, Brockton, Rockland, Abington, that's how Elizabeth and I knew each other, New Bedford, Fall River, and Weymouth. All of these districts have a very high number of English learners, just like us in Stoughton. And the majority of a lot of these districts are Brazilian Portuguese, followed by Haitian Creole. So they're very similar demographically with our English learners. So we pulled all the data. Elizabeth helped me do it. And in 2024, we were at 50-something%, not as high as 56%. And in 2025, but we were the highest of all of the southeastern hub districts. So thank you. And the Seal of Biliteracy is also part of that law, the 2017 Look Act. And the law says that all districts, when I arrived in 2018, we weren't doing the Seal of Biliteracy, but we soon started in 2019. So in 2019, we started giving the Seal of Biliteracy, and that is to test proficiency across reading, writing, speaking, and listening in another language other than English. We started using the Apple exam when I first got here, but we found out that the Avant was much easier to administer, and it was really like that access test that I was talking about, where the kids get tested in speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And our students last year, we gave it to 74 students, and it was our highest pass rate by far. And 65% of the students passed the Seal of Biliteracy. They also have to receive a qualifying score on ELA MCAS to show that their proficiency in English is just as high as their proficiency in another language. And the state pass rate is between 28 and 30%. So that's a pretty exciting number. And I always, when we give was it the 8th grade showcase that I say that at? Yes. When we talk to the 8th grade parents, we always try to promote this, that look at how high our pass rate of multilingualism is in Stoughton as opposed to the state. So very celebrated. Last year, I think I talked about when I presented a little bit about what we use our grant funding for, because we do get Title III federal grant funds, and we were awarded those again this year. When I did my qualitative doctoral study, I looked at 3 high-performing EL districts across the state. And one of the key findings in the study, and I talked to at least 30 educators and school committee members in each of those districts, one of the key findings was extended day programming for English learners had a real direct impact on achievement. So that we use a lot of our grant funds here in Stoughton for extended day learning. Currently, at the elementary level, we have a literacy, if you're all familiar with Wilson, we have something like an intervention, Wilson Fun and Focus at all 5 elementary schools. We have a literacy program at the middle school after school. At the high school, we have a math support group. We have a homework support group. We have multiple language clubs. We have Portuguese, Spanish, Haitian Creole, and Francophonie at the high school. For summer programming, that's where a lot of the grant funding comes in handy. We ran a 6 through 8 summer program in the month of July for multilingual learners. We also ran a 9 through 12 program for multilingual learners during the time that we run traditional summer school, and it was so well attended by our ELs. We also ran a newcomer program for our littlest students. We found, this was only our 2nd year running it, we found it had such a great impact on school readiness for students coming in from other countries who might not know how it is to be a student in the United States. So we ran that at the Wilkins this year for 2 weeks in August, and we definitely want to do that again this coming year. We also run an MTEL prep course, an ESL MTEL prep with the grant funds, and we've been doing that for 3 years. And as a result, we have duly certified a lot of our general ed teachers in ESL, since they're seeing a lot of our students. And then we have sometimes more funds from the 186. Mr. Ford isn't here, but he helps me write those grants. We've used it for MATSAL, which is training for our ESL teachers. Every year we go to Framingham for 2 days with EL teachers all around the state, and it's probably one of the best training that you can get. I've been going for a lot of years. We've used the funding for college field trips to get more of our English learners as juniors and seniors prepared and ready for college. And we've also used the grant funding for tutoring. In the future, I know you've all seen the triennial plan, but where we're headed in MLL education, we have a working group right now looking at elementary language programs. We don't have one, but language acquisitional theory says that if a student is literate in their home language, the transference to a second language is much greater. So we would love to get Portuguese in particular at the elementary level. I don't know if that will happen, but it is in the triennial plan. So last year we went to Watertown and Brockton and looked at their language programs. This year we're going to Weston. They call it a FLES program, FLES, which is an elementary language program. Watertown has Spanish. Weston has a couple of languages, and then Milton also has an elementary program, so we're hoping to go visit. It was a wonderful experience last year. We trained all the admin team on the state Look For tool. So this Department of Education has come out with an MLL Look For tool, and that tool allows educators, when we go in and evaluate teachers, to make sure they're implementing strategies that are good for multilingual learners to help them learn English and content. So we've been working on that. We've been working on aligning our ESL curriculum and world language curriculum with WIDA standards and ACTFL standards. On the full day PD, we recently trained all teachers on ESL strategies under Elevation Strategies, which is remarkable. It teaches teachers how to differentiate, which is good for special education students as well. We're looking at exploring more ESL opportunities at Stoughton Academy, not for the community, but also for students who are overaged and undercredited. We have a lot of kids show up at our door from other countries who are 19 but don't have a lot of credits and are a perfect candidate for Stoughton Academy, but we don't have the ESL offerings up there. So we're really working on building that out. Right now, we just have ESL Level 1. Question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to bring you back just a little bit. I'm going to kind of say it in my words, and it's probably going to come out wrong, so definitely change my wording.
Okay.
To say that we are, part of the triennial plan is teaching the multi-language learning students in their more proficiency in their own language, because that has proven to improve the English language.
Yes.
I know I said that really awkward.
No, you said it great. Yeah, you were paying attention.
Okay, all right, that's okay. Just say it again so you can
Yes.
clean up the way I said it,
No,
please.
you're absolutely right. I'll give you a scenario. So today, we just were in a meeting today, Elizabeth and I, and we had a student who's really, really struggling across all their classes. So we tested them in their native language, and we found out they barely have any literacy in their home language. So if I speak Spanish, if I had no literacy in English, Spanish is my second language, it would be very hard to learn Spanish. So the same is true of English learners. And being that we have such a large majority of students speaking Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, you know, more than any other language here, it really would make sense to build some literacy in Portuguese if students don't have it, and most of them do not. Most of our students are orally proficient in Portuguese, but they didn't have literacy unless they're coming at the high school level. So we did start a little pilot in the middle school this year. This isn't in my presentation, but I'll share it with you. We started a small cohort, a small cluster of sixth grade students with one of our bilingual ESL teachers, and she's building, you know, teaching them English, but she has a little group of them teaching them how to read and write in Portuguese as well. And we're going to measure data over sixth grade, seventh grade, and eighth grade to see, you know, to see if that helps them in all their academic classes as well. So very interesting to see. And that's why we're going out to these other districts to see how they're doing things.
I'm sorry, I just said to Dr. Sears that during the triennial plan discussion, unfortunately it was virtual, but it still, we were able to do some discussion that we're talking about that, so I'm not going to speak for Dr. Sears, but I'm happy to hear that it's actually a success, because it was certainly a concern, like, oh, this sounds a little different. And then we kind of questioned whether the Portuguese would be best fit or Spanish would be a better fit. So if I understand it right, you ended up choosing Portuguese as the pilot because we had so many, and I assume that's where the need was.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm biased. I took Spanish for 8 years, but it just doesn't meet the needs of our community. First thought, people would say, yes, Spanish is the second most spoken language in the United States. However, it's not the second most spoken language in southeastern Massachusetts. Even from Boston through the Cape and the Islands, Portuguese is the #1 language. Western Mass, it's Spanish. So it does make sense to build some proficiency in Portuguese here, for sure. Thank you. So we hope to explore those opportunities at Stoughton Academy. We hope, I know with the budget constraints, but we hope to, align with the triennial plan, with the coaching and the elementary language teachers. And really, Mr. Colantonio and I talk about often having a family welcome center, because all of those needs that I expressed with registration and screening, and we require that here in Stoughton, our needs. Right now, we're piecemealing in the schools, but hopefully at some point we'll have a family welcome center too. And any questions?
Already asked.
I have one that's, perhaps it's a shame I would ask this question, but since you're doing so well, the program's just doing outstanding. I was wondering what are some of your challenges and what the potential solutions are for those challenges that can actually make the program even better.
Oh, there's a lot. Something that we've started in the last 2 years when we started high school, our biggest challenge is graduation attrition with our oldest students, I think. And that's why we've discussed about the Stoughton Academy. We started with Ms. Miller last year having what's called an ELSST, so we meet every other week and we literally go through students of concern. Like I said, often our oldest students are coming to us with incomplete transcripts, they're being overaged, not having a lot of credits to transfer. So I really want to think about creative ways to help students graduate and become successful in the community. So if it is Stoughton Academy that's going to help do that, if it is, having a full-time multilingual counselor, I think that would make a huge difference. Right now, we're operating with somebody who's wonderful, but he's only there 2 days a week. So just to be able to do all of the general things a counselor does and have the language. Our multi-counselor speaks 4 languages, so we're really lucky, hard to find, but it would be helpful, I think, if we had a multilingual counselor, and we've talked about with Meg Kennedy, the counseling director, to even go between the high school and middle school, because obviously we need that systemic alignment from 6th grade to 12th grade to make students be able to be successful and graduate. So that's probably our biggest challenge, making sure kids graduate.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
This might be a question for both of you, too. What do you do when you get a student who is special ed in their own language?
Yeah.
Does ESL come, do you guys talk together? Because that, as you talked about it, we've seen that. You get a student, you think they can't learn English because they're special ed in Portuguese or Spanish or something along that.
That has been an issue that has been ongoing for years in DESE and even the U.S. Department of Ed has always been very gray on how to approach that. So whenever we have a student moving in who's been identified, there's a lot of collaboration, there's a lot of discussion. What support is more impactful at that moment in time, and just continuous conversations as the child progresses.
And it's an area where I get feisty because I always say, just a little. No, we always want 2 experts at the table. If you're talking about a student who is non-native English speaking, but also might have a special educational need, we can't make those decisions in isolation because our EL teachers have the language background, the special education teachers have the background of having a disability, and we try to make sure everybody's at the table. But it is super hard to tease out. That's why we've been increasing more bilingual testing, because if you do see a discrepancy in the native language and the teachers in an English-speaking classroom are really concerned, we can say, okay, this is more than just learning English. So it's really just constant collaboration. Our offices are across the street from each other upstairs, so,
I'm not allowed to close the door.
yeah, but you really do need to have the experts in the room.
I think one of the bigger challenges we have
On the microphone.
are, I'm sorry, the variety or the diversity of languages we have in Stoughton is if we do need to evaluate, finding an evaluator in that native language. And of course, trying to keep it within the special ed timeline has been extremely challenging over the past couple of years. Whether it be, a European, South American, or even a Southeast Asian language that we've encountered over the past couple of years. That's been one of the bigger challenges, is to remain compliant and give the child the service they need.
So that is it for me, unless there are more questions. Would I like to pass it over to Mr. Clark?
Dr. Quayle, before
Yeah.
you go, just for the committee's knowledge, so both of these departments have an I plan, right? One has an individual education plan, the other one has an individual learning plan. And so when you come to the question, Dr. Sears, that you mentioned around, how do we answer that, right? What we start with is we start with all these rules and regulations, and we somewhat forget the individual. And so I think what Dr. Quayle and Mr. Clark are both doing is trying to find that middle ground of what does this kid need right now? And then we'll figure out all the other, quote, legalities. And to be quite honest, right now, we don't really know what's going to happen with the Department of the US DOE. Because of, we're down to literally, I believe we're down to
There's one person in
in
the EL department.
at the federal level from hundreds. Special education is seeing its cuts. And so is that going to mean that the feds are backing off? And, in Massachusetts, we'll be fine because we have really strong regulations for both special education and EL, as well as high-end recommendations. So I think we'll be fine. But the question still remains, what does this really mean? And I think what we're trying to figure out is if this student is coming into the district from wherever, and the core has to be to try to test that student in their native language. That's the core. If we can find that can usually give us a better foundation of what the next steps should be as part of the educational plan for the student, regardless if they're on an IEP or if they're not on an IEP. They test it out, and now we have information that provides us the opportunity to just go strong with the EL. And then the last part is, which goes first? Because there's only a certain amount of minutes in a school day.
Yeah.
So if you have to do 90 minutes of EL, and you have to provide, let's just say OT, PT, speech, counseling, academic support, there's only so many minutes in the school day. So you have to try to figure out what's going to get the best bang for the buck for that student with the full consent and support of the family.
And a number for the committee to keep an eye on, and what I try to keep an eye on, is there's always a problem with over-identification of English learners for special ed and under-identification. And when I first arrived in Stoughton, it was grossly under-identification. There was a misnomer that you had to wait a certain number of years before testing students for an IEP. We've eliminated that, I think. But we don't ever want to get to a place for over-identification. So if we start to see the percentage of English learners are exceeding the overall percentage of kids who are on IEPs in the state, then we need to look at what we're doing and say we don't want to over-identify. So that's why the collaboration is important. Thank you so much. I will let Mr. Clark.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, I have a lot of stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Just use the stroller.
Boom.
And you just go up and down.
All right, thanks. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ed Clark, Director of Special Education. And I think as of today, it's 1/3 of the year through my third year back here in Stoughton. My presentation is basically, I wanted to share some numbers and also services with you. In Stoughton, I believe we have, I think the right word is a robust number of special education programming within the district. But we also have seen a change in need over the past couple of years. And so I put together some information to hope to give you a better understanding of what the year has looked like so far compared to past years. Okay. One of the biggest challenges we've had right off the bat, I'll go right into challenges, is this past summer we had a larger than normal number of students move in who are already identified as students with disabilities. Okay. Between July 1 and the middle of November, we had a total of 209 students move into Stoughton. 51 of those students were already on IEPs. And they were all across the board. There were 4 students who moved in who were already outplaced in special education programs.
Sorry, can you repeat that, please? I'm sorry, can you just repeat it?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Out of the 209 students that moved in, 51 of those students were students already receiving special education services. So just a tick below 25% of the move-ins were students with disabilities.
And you said how many were out of placement? Because I know those are the really expensive ones. 4 out of placement that
Luckily,
moved
that's,
into Stoughton.
yeah, but that'll take place, the money thing will take place next year, because if they move in after April 1st, the sending school is responsible fiscally for them
Okay.
for the next year.
But then we'll be responsible for them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got it. In June of this year, we had just a tick under 20% of our population as students with disabilities. Okay, we've gone up by almost 2%. So that increase in move-ins plus other students that have been identified have moved us at this point up already 2%. Now, during the school year, as students are evaluated and become eligible, it's traditionally your percentage does go up during the school year. But this is even though it's only 2%, this is a sharper increase than we're used to seeing at this time during the year. And it took us from being a little bit below the state average to about a 1 percentage point ahead of the state average at this point right now. Okay. As you can see from the pie chart, I'm going to come back to this a couple of times. When you take a look at the disability categories of students within Stoughton, our largest category are students identified on the autism spectrum at this point, which you'll see in the subsequent slides, the reason why we have the number of programming specifically for students on the spectrum that we do have. Okay. The next slide. If that was a little more legible, I apologize for that. It's a screenshot from the radar page at DESE's website, which is a tool you can use to compare your numbers, your services with other districts and also the state. You can see from that pie chart that last year, 2025, 20.6% of our students identified as students with disabilities were categorized as students on the spectrum. Subsequently, the state average was 17.3. So a little over 3% is a pretty significant difference when you're taking a look at identification. Rhyme or reason for it? Not really sure. It's just the concentration of students that we have in district and their level of need at this point. The next few slides, what I've done is put together just an overview of our substantially separate programs that we have within the district. Okay, starting with our preschool, our substantially separate classrooms are called GROW, nice little acronym for Getting Ready for Our World. We currently have 2 classrooms, but as we speak, we're in the process of opening a 3rd, because not only are we seeing a surge in students with needs pre-K to 12, we're seeing a concentrated need of students coming into the district, whether coming in and being evaluated as 3-year-olds or entering our preschools as peers, and then we get to know them and realize that they need an increased amount of support as well. We currently have 15 students within those 2 classrooms, 7 of them, so half of those students we have already were in our integrated preschool classrooms, and our team has determined that we need to do a little more evaluation to see how they're responding to a higher level of service and support. And so almost half of those students are under what's called an extended evaluation term within our substantially separate classrooms. We currently have 2 teachers and 6 paraprofessionals, a manageable ratio, but there are times with the level of need and the level of dysregulation that we're seeing in these kiddos that our teachers are really working their tails off every day to help these kiddos learn. We've also contracted with a registered behavioral technician to help with these students who are dysregulated, helping us to not only draft but also implement behavior plans, collect data, and track their progress so we can get them ready to learn. A lot of those goals you'll see is preschool readiness or pre-academic goals. It's really getting their emotions and their bodies to a place where we can attempt to teach them at this point. Moving on to our elementary substantially separate programs. We currently have 5 TLC classrooms, therapeutic learning centers. These are the classrooms that we have that service, again, students on the spectrum, but on the lower end of the spectrum, what we consider level 2 or level 3 ASD students. Students with increased levels of need, not only around academics, but also around communication, regulation, and also some pretty significant academic needs as well. We currently have 2 of these classrooms at the Wilkins and 3 of these classrooms at the Daw. And our numbers are, again, starting to increase, but we're also seeing those students from the preschool are going to be matriculating to elementary next year. It's in my budget proposal for next year to open a 6th classroom to help us service these students in districts.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Maybe slightly off topic, but if you remember last year, the CPAC and I
Yep.
did a visit for the common rooms. So
Correct.
I don't know how it maybe adds into here, but just selfishly, I kind of, and maybe for the CPAC too, they haven't had a chance to really come in and talk about the common rooms, and they might still be getting their information together. But maybe you could just talk a little bit about how that might add in if you were able to integrate it into any of this. If not, we can have a
No,
conversation
that's fine.
after.
The answer is simple. We do use the calming rooms in our 5 elementary schools and also in the preschool. When staff are trained in crisis intervention techniques, which I do a presentation for the CPAC around the training every year, a big component of the training is not only keeping the child safe, but also protecting the child's dignity. So if you have a child who's dysregulated, you have a child who's tantruming, for lack of a better word, do we want that in the classroom, in the hallway, or do we want that in a calming space where they can internalize, pull themselves back together before returning to the classroom? And last year, one of our BCBAs, Amanda Crockett, one of her goals was to develop a more efficient tracking system for how the quiet rooms are used. And outside of the quiet rooms are QR codes now, where teachers bringing a child in, they can scan it with their phone. The form comes up. We can track the number of times the child's in there, the amount of time they stay, and we instantly get a report,
Terrific.
which not only will help at the end of the year when I present data, but also the data we have to upload to DESE as well. It was a fantastic idea, and it's
Yeah.
when
yeah.
DESE was in a couple of weeks ago doing their tour for our review, that was one of the, what's the word I'm looking for? It's one of the thumbs up they gave us, I guess is what I would like to say. Oh, it's exemplary practice is the term I was looking for, so, yeah. You're very welcome. I'm going to repeat this over and over again, but I can't help but a lot of our special education staff, because with the uptick of students that we're seeing in need of service and the ever-changing and ever more, sorry for the grammar, ever more complex needs of our students, these people are working tirelessly. The changes and increases in need are coming so quickly. Trying to add service providers and fill positions to help students it has really become more than a full-time job. And I thank God every day these people show up and continue to work every day, because they're doing a lot more than we should ask an individual to do on a daily basis. And they're doing it, and they collaborate and they're becoming stronger teams just out of necessity. But really doing work that's completely admirable. So, okay. We have some of our other substantially separate rooms. Currently, we have 2 RISE classrooms at the elementary level. RISE stands for Reaching Independence Through Structured Education. These classrooms were created about 4 years ago, and these are for our level 1 students on the spectrum. So students who maybe have social communication disorder, may have some organizational difficulties, but are working on or close to grade level and just need some additional support to get through the day. These have been very successful programs. We pat ourselves in the back. We've hired 2 dynamite teachers to teach these classrooms. And you'll see the number of students, we have 18 total. We have 2 teachers and 6 paraprofessionals. The reason for that high ratio is that these students are integrated so much. We need the paraprofessionals who have been trained to work with these kids in these programs to accompany them to inclusion services. So these kids are moving. They're taking part in almost every activity that the schools have to offer. And again, like all special education programs, the goal is to basically put ourselves out of business to make sure these are independent learners who can, integrate fully into the classroom. Okay? We currently have 3 learning center classrooms. These are for students with lower cognitive abilities. We also have quite a few students with some physical challenges as well at the Gibbons Elementary School. We have 3 this year. We actually increased 1 more class, again, because of student need that we've identified within the district, but also students moving up from preschool to kindergarten who needed this level of support as well. The Alternative Learning Center, or ALC, are our programs for our students with social and emotional needs, housed at the Hanson School. We have 3 programs, and these are unique programs because we have a K1, a 2-3, and a 4-5 classroom. They look completely different if you spend any time in all of them, because as I mentioned before, we're trying to train independent learners. K1 classroom, those students are in the substantially separate classroom for the majority of the day, learning the skills to become independent learners. By the time they get to 4th and 5th grade, those students are almost fully included. The teacher consults with classroom teachers, and himself and the paraprofessionals are actually almost fully embedded in those general ed classes, helping students. So we have more independent learners as they move on to middle school. Okay. And we have 1 language-based classroom based at the South. These are specifically for students with language-based learning disabilities. A lot of the direct instruction occurs in the substantially separate classroom. A lot of pre-teaching, a lot of individualized, specialized reading instruction occurs within the program, but these students are included at a higher rate as well as in relation to some of the others. As students move up, we do have a full continuum of programs. As you can see, the needs continue within the middle school, where we continue to have a wide range of substantially separate programming for our students. And I've broken down the number of students, the number of staff that are serviced throughout the day. And the same is true at the high school. The LC and the ESP, Emotional Support Program at the high school, when students reach that level, they may come from a few of our different programs at the elementary or middle school level, but they have gained the skills where one program is able to address their needs because there's more inclusion involved once a student gets to the high school level. Okay. What I didn't mention here was also our alternative ed program at the high school, which is a hybrid of both special ed and regular ed students who need that extra support, mainly around school attendance, organization, adolescent issues that sometimes accompany learning disabilities. Besides students that we service within our sub-separate population, we do have students who are either fully or partially included at each of our elementary school. So in addition to those numbers that you saw of students within our programs, here are the current numbers of students on IEPs at our individual elementary schools here. Okay. Interesting that our smallest school has the highest number, but it also only has one separate program. Okay. In addition to this, I also wanted to mention, I apologize for forgetting to put it on the slide, is at our preschool, not only do we have the GROW, our sub-separate programs, we also have 7 integrated preschool classrooms. Okay? Within those 7 classrooms, we are servicing 26 students already on IEPs. Okay? But the integrated classroom setup is there's a maximum of 15 students per classroom, and if there are 7 students on IEPs, we have to have 7 peer models within those classrooms. Historically, it's been a challenge to find peer models to attend programs, but they were half-day programs a lot. And Dr. Baeta, and we made the decision at the beginning of last year to make them all full-day options. And now we have a wait list for peers. So the necessity and the beauty of having peer models is just that. They're modeling the behavior even though they're only 3 and 4 years old. We've got students with learning and emotional regulation challenges integrated in learning not only from teachers but also from their peers, how to become ready to be learners. And not to leave out, again, I'm sorry, I didn't break down the numbers at the middle and the high school, but at the middle school, outside of the programs, we also have 7 inclusion teachers. We have 6 at the high school. Even though I see their schedules every year, and I'm questioned about their schedules every year, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they're able to successfully service students across a full schedule at the middle and high school and do it effectively and successfully and see the progress and report on the progress that they do. Especially, I'd say more at the high school level, because I think at the high school level we see more of a transient population of move-ins and move-outs during the year. And then being able to learn a student, put a program together to help a student learn and be successful with that is a pretty incredible task to see. And again, they should be applauded for that. Now, with that being said, cue the music. Dun, dun, dun. With the increase in student need, we've also seen a pretty sharp increase in our students that have to be serviced out of district. And I've broken down the numbers for you here. We are up to 70 students that are currently being serviced outside of the Stoughton Public Schools because of the level of service that they require. On the left, they're broken down by grade level. The only thing that's skewed a little bit is you see the 12/SP. It shows we have 14 students. Out of those 14 students, there are 7 students that are receiving transitional services through one of our collaboratives. So they're not full out-of-district students. They may be receiving some vocational life skill coaching through the collaborative, but then they're attending worksite vocational training, and we also have 4 that are attending and auditing college classes at this time. Okay?
I think most of us kind of understand what you mean by collaborative, but for people who are listening, I think that might have,
Little continuum 101?
yeah, if you don't mind just explaining what you mean by on collaborative.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
There are approximately, I believe, last time I checked, a little over 25 educational collaboratives through the state. Now, back when IDEA was authorized in the early 70s, again, the need for more substantially separate programming became evident. And as you know, by taking a look at budgets every year, they're not inexpensive services. So school districts got together and said, we're talking about low incident disabilities. I have 2 students who require this level of service. The next town over may have 2. Town on the other side may have 3. Now we have enough to build a program. So school districts would join together and collaborate, bless you, and form educational collaboratives. The majority of collaborative classrooms are within public school buildings. They're actually considered public school programs. Okay? And it cut down on the need to send a student to a private special ed school. The beauty of it is that it's an easier transition. It's within a public school, so they have all the inclusion opportunities available. But if a student has reached a level where they no longer need that level of service, the transition back to their home school is a lot easier. So when you look at the continuum of services from least restrictive to most restrictive environment, the next step from our substantially separate programs are the collaborative programs, which can provide a little more intensive services. Right? I hope that was enough.
Sure, it's-
Okay.
Great, no, that was, you, very well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I put the pie chart up here again because I wanted you to see that even though the population we have of students with disabilities, the highest percentage are students on the autism spectrum. And although we have a large number of programming specifically for students on the spectrum, there is a population that has such a high need that we can't meet within the public school. The majority of the students we have outplaced are on the autism spectrum. Again, we can take a look at, there's no need for root cause analysis. You can't figure it out. There are some districts that have a higher concentration of kids with communication disorders, specific learning disabilities. It's just, this is what Stoughton Public Schools is. So as we continue to build these programs within district, the need, hopefully, for these high numbers will come down because we won't need to refer so many students to be outplaced to this higher level of need. Change of practice. This is just a continuation. The last time I was here, we talked about a change in the structure of the special education department. We brought in team chair people this year. We have we have 3 team chairs, and we have a team chair / transition coordinator at the preschool level as well. So instead of having liaisons and our school psychologist chair these initial and reevaluation meetings, we have 4 people scheduling all of these meetings. We meet on a monthly, if not a bi-monthly basis, to discuss problems of practice, scheduling these meetings, how we run the meetings, eligibility determination, making sure it's more consistent across the board. We're also in the process of reviewing practices around making sure, again, back to regulations, make sure we continue to be compliant with state and federal timelines. One of the biggest boosts we got this year is that we now have an electronic signature feature within our special education software, where at a meeting we have a parent sign off that they would like to receive their IEP electronically. They can read through it, and instead of reading through it, signing it, putting it in the mail, putting a stamp on it, and sending it back to us, they can click a couple of buttons, and we get it, and the turnaround has been fantastic. It takes a little longer to read on the screen than on paper, but I'll get over it because it's done. It's cut down a lot of the paperwork in my office, and it's become a lot more efficient, which has been great. So, moving forward, we're going to continue to take a look at the team chair roles. Again, they're just doing those meetings right now and doing the scheduling. Again, people new to the district, with the exception of the preschool position. So they're still learning the players, they're learning the ropes, they're working in multiple buildings, so trying to figure out the scheduling and tweaking that. And as soon as they get to a point where they're proficient and can take on more, we'll take a look at possibly having them part of the IEP process procedure as well. That's part of the triennial plan. It's like an ongoing assessment of, did this cut down the school psychologist duties to a point where we can take a look at their job responsibilities, as well as taking a look at the team chair responsibilities as well. So it's been an added bonus this year when we take a look at the procedure, and seeing that huge increase that we got over the summer. I don't even want to think about how we would have managed all those move-in meetings and drafting those new IEPs if we didn't have these people in place. I would have a lot less hair than I do now. So. Looking forward, again, with the increased numbers, I am going to be recommending that we do increase our special ed staffing. I showed you the inclusion numbers at the elementary schools. At every elementary school, we have 2 inclusion teachers covering 6 grades right now. And as these numbers continue to climb, I'm afraid a couple of them are going to drop. So we need to seriously take a look at increasing the levels of supports we have to address those numbers. We've already began working as a triennial team. We actually meet on a biennial basis, and we're already looking to overhaul the plan that I presented to you last year. Because of the increase we're seeing from the inclusion, full inclusion population, instead of evaluating our programs first, we may flip it and take a look at our inclusive services as well as our general ed interventions as well. Taking a look at the effectiveness of those prior to a possible referral or increase in services. And last but and certainly not least, last month we had a visit from the Department of Ed. They did their once every 3 years audit, for lack of a better term. This year they weren't looking at procedures as far as special ed procedures, timelines, paperwork, and services. They looked at physical facilities. They looked at the qualifications of staff and administrators. They looked at our CPAC structure. They looked at our general ed services, because those interventions now fall under their child find category. So not only are we looking for students who are not 3 years old or maybe at a private school, they're focusing on child find within the public schools and students who are receiving general ed interventions and the efficiencies of that. They did look at some policies and procedures. They reviewed our handbooks. They also reviewed 15 civil rights areas under civil rights. It's lots of documents. And so that was interesting. I don't want to say fun. They have the 2 reviewers that came in for the site visits. They have sent their preliminary report up for review, and I've been told that we can expect that sometime in January with their recommendations, whether we're completely proficient or partially proficient in certain areas. Will then trigger us to develop corrective action plans if necessary, moving forward based on their findings. Some of their findings can be a little arbitrary based on who the reviewer is. As we walked around the middle school, the only thing they said was we needed to remove ELL classroom from the doors. I accompanied one of the reviewers to the Gibbons School, and if you've been to the Gibbons, we've got the library. We have 3 substantially separate classrooms across the hall. They said, the visitor who I was with said, that's considered a cluster, and that's not appropriate. The other reviewer went to the DAW, same building footprint, same 3 substantially classrooms, and didn't say anything about it. So there'll be a rebuttal when they, when it comes out, but, and of course, I'll be here to share that report and any corrective action plans that we have to put in place when the report comes in.
Questions?
Any questions? Yes, sir. Thanks.
Same question. What are the challenges and possible solutions? What's your greatest challenges and possible solutions?
Well, that's the first slide, I believe, was the greatest challenge. Is it's always the unknown, I think, which has always been true with special education. We know that during a school year, as we get to know students, as we assess students, we discover their challenges throughout the year. But when we have an influx like that, as I said, and I'll repeat it many times, if it wasn't for the professionalism and dedication of the special education staff that we have here in Stoughton, I would have been here a few meetings ago asking for help, because they're really going over and above. And I think that has been the greatest challenge, is not knowing what's walking through the door, and the level of need that students are going to require when they arrive, and also just trying to make sure that we're not burning people out and keeping highly qualified staff at a place where they can continue to be effective.
Very good. Thank you, both of you. Really appreciate the presentation. Very informative. And it appears Stoughton Public Schools is doing excellent work.
Take the microphone.
Okay, next we're going to have a discussion, or perhaps not, about approval of out-of-state field trip for the Gibbon School.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the committee, as you know, the school committee is responsible under state law to approve any field trip for any grade level in a public school that is out of state, regardless if it's overnight or just for the day. So we are recommending, per the Gibbon School, a K March 12, 2026 program at the Providence Children's Museum, as noted in the form that you have.
Any discussions? Hearing no discussion? Yeah. No discussion?
Yes, sir. I do have one.
You have one?
Yes. Sorry, I had to grab a glass of water. Is there any cost to the district?
In this particular one, I do not believe there is.
No busing cost?
Yeah, I don't think so on this one,
How is it
but I can
being
get back.
funded?
Sometimes it's through the PTOs, but I'll
That's
get you
what I
an answer.
assumed.
I'll get you a direct answer, because it's not noted on the form here.
Yeah.
I'll get you an answer.
Anything
you.
else?
When is this?
March of 2026, March 12th.
It would be nice to know the cost before we vote on it.
Yeah, I can absolutely
I
do
mean, if there's no
that.
cost, I don't mind. I don't know if that can even be done as a vote. I'm sure it's not a whole lot, even if it is.
In most
but-
cases, it would be busing if there is any cost there. Let me get that information to you, because it's, for whatever reason, transportation does not include, doesn't include any information on cost. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to
Just-
table this. I'm going to ask you to
Thank
table
you.
this. since,
Okay.
Thank you for notifying me
Yeah.
that the form does not note.
Yep,
if
I think
it's,
that requires a vote, does it not, to table?
I'm sorry?
Require a vote of the committee to table something?
Yeah, you can do that, sure.
That's through the chair.
Okay, let's go vote and determine if we should table it.
You need
I make a motion,
Yep.
I make a motion to table this until we get some financials on it.
I second that.
Okay. Roll call?
Aye.
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 Sorry about that. I'll get the clarification for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Barbosa.
Next item on the agenda, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the members of the committee. There's 3 general handouts that you have. I won't get into a lot of details about them. Then there's the 4th that I actually emailed to you that is a little bit more complicated. But in general, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, DESE, has decided to go back to the whole idea of collecting attendance. the rationale behind this is that attendance matters. If we're going to discuss attendance about students matters, let's also discuss about our employees. The concern that we have is the accuracy of this data. We feel very comfortable about our data because our data is what we report on a regular basis. Since I've been here, Mr. Colantonio has been providing building principals with regular updated data for them to review, because you see it every day, but when you really get like an end of term or end of trimester, or by actually, the latest one I think is coming out at the end of this month, you really get to see as a building principal, hey, am I missing that somebody's been out a lot more than maybe I've thought that they've been, and is it time to have a conversation? So we feel comfortable about our data, and we know that it can continue to be better data. And the reason why I'm challenging the state data is for a number of different reasons. Number one, it's up to the districts to report it how we want to report it, right? It's right in the Q&A section. I believe it's on the second page. And then the second part is two districts were announced as having perfect attendance, 100%. Not a single soul was out for any of the reasons.
Impressive.
Which is very impressive. Matt and I had a few laughs about it. But when things that are, we would consider an excused absence. For example, you're out on maternal paternal leave, okay? You are out on bereavement, right? It's in the contract. You have the right to that. So administratively, I took time this past year, a year ago this week, with my dad's passing. So it would be noted that I missed 5 days of work because I was out for my dad's passing. I don't know how two communities didn't have any of that happen. And I hope they're right, that they didn't lose anybody or anything else, but I believe that there needs to be a better way of collecting this data and reporting it. And I'll tell you why. It's the media's role to give us information. It's the media's role to also sometimes interpret the information. And that's what happens. You announced that two districts were perfect. And then we also announced that there were districts that were, quote, below the state average. And in both cases, that data is swayed. And so it's very, very concerning. But I did want to share with you that our numbers, which are on the left-hand side of that, the state are on the other side, in the first one, and then I did it for each of our schools. One thing that's true is that the average statewide for students and staff is pretty much aligned. It's about 12 days on average. So it's about 168 days for kids coming to school and 168 out of the 180 of schools, although most teachers' contracts and other contracts are more time than that, or even 12 months like the administrators that work for you. But I did think it was important. I also thought it was important for the staff to get those comments, but also and the public, but also for us to, and the reason why I put the frequently asked questions in there is because some of these address some of the questions that I get. In terms of, where do you think we are? We feel very strongly about our data. We are consistently looking at our data. But if somebody calls in sick and they're out for numerous times, there's a process for that. If somebody's out consecutive days, there's a process for that. But things like bereavement, things like, paternal, maternal leave, there's got to be a better way of collecting that data, in my opinion. But it is up to the districts to report it. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. C., who I know has a couple of comments he'd like to make.
Yeah, I would just say that it's good to have the data. It's the first time that the state's doing it. It's always good to have a data point. It's their first time releasing it. So like with any first, I would say take it for this year, and that's fine. Let's see what next year's data looks like. Let's look at trends when we see 3 or 4 years in a row. It is an interesting... staying completely neutral, and it's an interesting note that Dr. Baeta made that the data as published does not exclude, take into consideration, note, or in any way reference things like parental leaves. So when we're doing our own work internally, we do a lot of work with staff data, monitoring data, taking a look at trends and patterns, things that you might have to address with individual staff members. We're always obviously disregarding substantial medical leaves that we have approved, and we're going to sort of set those aside. This data doesn't do that, and that's fine. So if you're looking at this data and you might see a number that's pretty alarming, and you might just be dealing with a district that had an unusual number of parental leaves that year, and that's okay. And I think we are always looking at each individual school and the staff attendance there and student attendance as well. So it is good to have this data, and everybody knew that they were releasing this data, and now it's released, and folks will do what they will, and Fox 25 will do what they will. We know that, that's fine, and we, want to improve anywhere we can improve, but just to make those notations.
So if I could just read into the record, because I think it's really important when, I'm held to make sure that we have good data and try to give you folks good data. But this is the question. An absence is missed work time that falls outside of paid vacation time or district-approved professional development. Personal days, sick days, jury duty, bereavement, paid leave, maternity leave, unpaid leave, et cetera, should be counted as absences. I just want to enter that into the record so that everybody knows that there's got to be a better way to collect this data. Second, unless there's questions?
Oh, so many questions. So many questions. Just me? Okay. You said this is the first year they've done this?
They've actually did it before COVID. They started the process, then it completely came to a halt. So they're restarting it now
Okay.
as a yearly document.
Okay. And I think at least 3 times I heard something about news. Is there a concern that the news outlets are going to
The news
look
outlets.
negatively on this? Because it didn't seem, it was already on the news?
It was already on the news, yeah. the
Stoughton
data-
itself?
No.
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 Okay.
But we were not on the news because we fall within the thresholds.
Well, that's
But
what I was
it's-
looking at, and didn't think it was,
No, no.
It's not bad.
I'm just-
But, yeah.
I'm su-
Okay.
It's covered it.
Okay.
I'm just suggesting that we need to use real data in order to talk about how to improve.
Sure.
And not what I noted earlier.
okay, then perhaps I can be so bold as to say, as a committee, not that I want to speak for my committee members, but the school committee has one employee. We have a CEO. CEO is the superintendent. As our CEO of schools, are you concerned, because that's my only question to my CEO is, are you concerned at the number of absenteeism on the employees that Stoughton has in their school system?
Yes.
You are concerned?
I am concerned. There's a direct correlation with academic success and staff attendance. It's a fact. I didn't do the research. It's research-based. It's been done a million times. There are extremes that take place in our lives. Loss and gain. Maternal, paternity leave, bring somebody into our world. You get cancer, you get sick. I want to take all of those out of this discussion and then just concentrate on absenteeism and who's not meeting the day. And I think that I haven't done this well for 17 years. I did start it in my last district where we started to have one-to-one conversations. I know for a fact that I've had principals in the 3 years that I've been here have individual conversations with staff and letters of expectations sent to them because we did see some patterns. And I think most staff and most people recognize that there's things that happen in our lives that we can't control. But I think all of us as CEOs within public education, with the impact of so much to do in 180 days and taking out the extreme situations of what happens in our lives that we can't control, that we still have too many days out. I mean, there are days where it's difficult to open up a building. And there's a lot of substitutes, and you know that what the impact on this. But I want to be very careful. We have to do a better job. We, administrators, that includes myself, we have to do a better job of saying to individual staff, it's time to come to work. So I don't want to shame my educators because I think that's the wrong approach. I think we have areas of folks that we need to have those difficult conversations with about their attendance.
Okay, so you almost answered my next question, not to take over the conversation, so it'll be my last one on this, but as the CEO, what are your action steps? Could you
Yeah.
please let us know what those are?
Yeah, so
And if you don't mind, I'm going to
Yeah,
write
so-
some down.
So 3 years ago, when I got here at central office and through the building principals, we started to have discussions around attendance. So the first thing what we did through Matt's office is start to review regular attendance. Since then, individual employees, and I'm going to use the word employees, it's not just, it's employees of the district, all categories.
They're all
Have
employees.
had one-to-one meetings, because I know that those meetings have taken place, because the principals have received my support, the administrators, the directors, whoever that category is, they've received my support that, yes, let's have a conversation. In some of those cases, there's been follow-up memos, if you will, of expectations. And now we're at the level of, if those expectations can be met, then we begin the next level of the process of, quote, writing somebody up, and then potentially whatever the next step after that should be. We should never have to get to that next step. It's important to recognize that the idea is to get people to understand that, and I've said this for 17 years, I say it again, and I'll say it until I'm no longer here and no longer a superintendent. Yes, the most important things that we do every day is educate children, our scholars. But there is no education without highly qualified adults in the building, regardless of their role. Regardless of their role. We learn from our teachers, we learn from our administrators, we learn from our paras, we learn from our counselors, we learn from our custodians, we learn from our hall monitors, we learn from everybody every day, not just our educators. So that's why I think it's important. The last part is, we've had a lot of internal discussions around notifying staff in the evaluation process, but that is a very difficult thing to do within the evaluation process. So what are we doing now is Matt's office releases individual attendance to staff. Literally, this is your attendance. So now they have direct information from us about what their attendance looked like for the year. So literally, the next thing is, hey, we know people's attendance, and if we have to go down the road of looking at patterns, then that's what we do.
So you do that during the evaluation, or you're just
Outside
doing
of
it?
the
Outside of the
evaluation.
Outside the
Outside
evaluation?
Notification, couple times a year, hey, this is your attendance. Also, like, is there an error?
That after a certain
Nope. that's-
threshold, or is that just everybody's getting their?
Everybody gets it, yep.
Okay.
It's
all
like
right,
a
all right.
notification process that Stoughton really never did before, and that Dr. Baeta was one of the,
First one you gave?
it was early on, it was well before the announcement of this attendance thing, just to say.
Yeah, it has
I'm
nothing
not
to do with this
saying, I'm just
report.
saying. Yeah,
It was
way
just-
before this, yeah.
I think my reputation is very clear that I appreciate and respect educators, again, regardless of our role. But the issue still is, there's 180 days to impact teaching and learning. And so it's really important that outside of the extreme things that happen within our lives, the extreme good and the extreme bad, both individually and to our families, or the growth of our family to bring a child onto this earth, or adoption if you're an adoptive parent, is a wonderful thing. So there's nobody that's seen that more than I have in my life. But I do think it's important for us to say to our employees, thank you for having good attendance, and also be able to have difficult conversations with those that don't. And we can say, hey, listen, this seems to be like something's going on here.
No, I lied. I'm going to ask one more question.
Sure.
Is there a cost benefit? I know that there is.
Of course there is.
I know that there is, but that's now that is under the purview of
Yeah.
the committee.
Yeah,
So
so-
I would love to know what the cost.
Yeah, so the cost benefit is, remember that every single time somebody is out, we're paying that employee according to their contract. And in our case, I believe it's 100% of all of our employees, non-union and union. And then there's some staff that you don't have to cover. For example, if I'm out, nobody's covering for me, or, if Julie's out, and that type of thing. But also like potentially the librarian, or potentially a counselor, or something like that. But if you go to custodian, there's always potentially for overtime shift to make up the time, or calling somebody in, and you can go down the line in all of those different positions. So in general, there's a monetary cost attached to that. But I think the biggest cost is everything that happens within our schools, which is the impact on the day, the learning on the day, and the research is pretty clear about that. So it's a double card, if you will, of both the
Would be
financial
interesting to
costs.
see, though.
Yeah.
If you have 1% of attendance go down.
Right.
Or actually go up, then what would be the cost?
So one of
Be
the
an
things,
interesting one if we were able to do it.
one of the things that we have really pushed with our student body is 95% attendance, right? And right now, we're actually in a really good place. We're averaging right around 96% for the first time in a long time. Yeah, that there's a different bubble every day, but we're really keeping a track on our attendance. We're starting to really take a look at our staffing attendance in the same way. You know, we would really like to be at 95% attendance, you know, for at least 170 days out of the 180 days of the year, recognizing, but there's a lot of things that go into that. And, you know,
When no one is.
the-
No one's at 95.
no, but that's, you know, the state's goal is, you know, we should be maintaining the same type of goal that we're expecting of our students as well. That said, it's a goal, right? And the idea is that if we're counting that somebody's going home for 12 weeks because they're having a child,
Yeah.
does it have an impact? Of course it does. We know
Right.
that. All of us have had as parents, we've all had the ex-teacher where, my goodness, my kids didn't have this in third grade and now again in fifth grade because of maternity leave, paternal leave. It is what it is. I mean, we get it. I think even we as parents get that. But there is
I'm
an.
not begrudging that.
But no, not at all. And
begrudging
that's my issue. My issue is that we need more of a flow and a impact on people who are misusing their days than we need on all of this data that is, it
The
just,
state data.
it just gives me a bad taste of the way that it's done. That's all.
Thank you.
You bet.
I hope I didn't take everyone's question.
The second one is, the second one is just the my MASS member, legal counsel on this new MASC update on policy. I did include our policy as well, and I have asked Mr. Ford to reach out to our policy working group to look at all of this and see how this impacts our current policy. So you folks will be seeing some changes in the future. Yes,
Sorry.
it's okay.
But you gave us the wrong policy from my standpoint. So on what you gave us, what the okay, so maybe I didn't let you talk long enough. So this is a memorandum from Long, DiPietro, and Gonzalez, attorneys at law, to the Massachusetts Association of Superintendents.
Correct,
And then you gave it to us.
correct.
Okay, and this is about, I wrote it down on here, there were three. Okay, so one is a policy that reads, relations with parent/booster organizations. The second one is policy that reads, student fundraising activities. And the third one reads, gifts and solicitations by staff. So there are three policy changes that came down, I believe, from a state, maybe a state law change, but came down from the MASC, which is School Committee,
Correct.
Massachusetts Association from School Committee, making some minor changes on these from a government change. Came down to the MASC, and then there were questions from superintendents about the MASC guidance. And so this is in reference to that.
Correct.
All right, so the first one that says relations with parent booster organizations, that is actually policy KBE. That is this policy. The one that reads student fundraising activities, that is policy JJE. And the third one, gifts and solicitations by staff, is policy GBEBC, which is this policy. And the only one that is not in this group of three that this memorandum is speaking of is policy KHA, which is the one that was included in our policy.
So it's my understanding, I don't know, when we went on our website to go get the policies aligned to solicitation, so on, these are the ones that I got out. I'm happy to be corrected. The reason why,
Happy to give them to you. Yeah, I want to make sure that when we're looking at this stuff, that the committee is getting the correct information. That's all. I'm not trying to embarrass anybody or,
I
I just, I mean, you knew I was on policy for a year, so I looked at this and of course I'm going to look it up and be like, wait a minute, what were these policies? And I see those three policies were, yes, those three policies came down from the MASC, the Massachusetts School Committee. I'm being like long-winded because I want people
I get
at
you.
home to understand what I'm saying. Came down from the Massachusetts School, which is where we get a lot of our recommendations for policy changes. So those were the three policies that got changed. And actually, the wording that changes that came on there, very small wording changes, nothing that I thought came out. I mean, I don't know if our policy group has something more to say about
We haven't
this.
seen, this was the first we've seen this. And if you look down here, he lists all the ones you just said as cross-reference.
Right, so
Yeah,
when you look
okay.
at, so
He
when.
did list them. Dr. Maeda did
so
list.
for the,
It's-
Yeah.
No, what it is this is our policy,
I know,
KHA,
yeah.
which also cross-references, because there are some crossovers to this.
Yep.
But when you're looking at this memorandum that he gave us from the MASS, that doesn't talk about policy KHA. It's talking about KBE, JJE, and GBEBC as listed right in the first paragraph where it says parent booster organization, student fundraising. So it says right at the beginning, these are the three that this memorandum is discussing. And then it goes into detail about why they think that, why the MASS, the superintendent's group, from this lawyer, says why these three policies are a good change and why they support it. What I'm saying is, it's great, and I'm a big supporter of policy, especially the ones that come down from the MASC. I just want the correct ones included, because it didn't include the KHA.
I'll make sure that we do that. So it's my understanding from the meeting I was at, and then we received this, that the way that this took place was MASC has decided to make revisions to its policy. And those policies are going to be coming down to you. And in this memo, to the superintendents, it says, hey, guys, this is coming, and it's going to have some changes. And some of the changes that they're suggesting, sorry, I have to go to my notes. Some of the changes that they were suggesting was defining, provided they obtain the required permits. Whose permits? It doesn't say whose. Is it the town's permits? Because under a raffle, the town has the right to collect 6.25% taxation. So
On a nonprofit?
well, my first question that I have here is, we don't have, quote, a required permit in Stoughton Public Schools. We have it for our use of facilities, but, so what does that mean? So that was one question I had.
That's already
The-
in the policy, though. That's not new from coming down from MASC recommendation.
we-
That's already in the policies that we have current that says that they have to have those permits.
Whose permits? We don't give permits.
Right, so it just says the town permit or state permit, whatever permit, they're just saying if you have to have a permit, they have to get it.
Right, and I think the question that's at hand is who's doing it and who's not doing it is one of the questions that is being asked. That's number one. Number two, the second one is gifts exceeding $250 per award for a bazaar-style event, cash prizes. I know for a fact in the 3 years that I've been here that we've had bazaars and prizes that are worth more than $250.
Yes, we have.
Gift certificates limited to $200. The process, money received by the school committees must go into the town's general fund. Okay, parent organizations are treated as separate non-municipal entities, and school committees must confirm that funds are properly handled before use. How's that done? How do you, not me, how do you, because it says school committee, do that? Is it a memo from them to you that's entered into the record?
Well,
Is it just?
PTOs have that stuff. They have, because they have treasurers.
So then the question is, are all of our organizations 501(c)(3)?
All of our PTOs and PTAs, and the one PTA, are 501c3s, all of them.
Ensuring that any parent organization conducting raffles or games are 501(c)(3) status.
all of our PTOs.
Then it
and
says,
PTA.
confirming that any parent organization owning a raffle or game of chance has obtained the required permit before the raffles or game of chances occurs. Confirming.
If there's a required permit, I guess. But that's not new. That's all I'm saying, is it's not new. But I think this is something really for our policy group.
So the purposes of my bringing it up is exactly that. You all know about it, and I'm deferring it to both Mr. Ford and the subcommittee to work on it. Whatever your outcome is, will be your outcome. Thank
So
you.
then
I'll
I
give you
would-
this back, because I will use the notation to make sure I get a copy of it.
Okay, yeah, so I would, I'm actually going to give this to, I'll get you a copy, Dr. Sims. No, you know what, you can have my copy. And so, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that was actually given the correct, because it wasn't KHA, so it was hard to, but this memo, if I'm not mistaken, is saying that not only is the MASC saying that these changes are good, but the superintendent's group, the MASS, is also endorsing these changes. Now, we don't have to, and I know our policy group understands that. We have purview over our policies. So whatever comes down from the MASC or the MISS, that's not mandate. So we choose, I wish John were here, so we choose how we want this worded. But I'm sure, I have full faith in our policy working group that they're looking for.
Okay, any more
Thank you.
comments?
Sure. Well, thank you for that. I'll make sure we get all the information to the subcommittee to then come back to the
The
full
working
committee.
group.
The working group,
We
I'm
don't have a
sorry.
subcommittee.
And then lastly, you heard about the Stoughton Academy earlier today, so you saw the connection on the, I'm happy to report that we do have a working group. We're actually meeting, I think, the 13th or 17th, I can't remember the date again. We are now into subcommittees that are working because there's so much to do here, right? And then the idea is also to begin an advisory board for the academy. And we're really trying to look at, BSU, Bridgewater State, has made a commitment to early college for Stoughton Public Schools. We have that in writing. We have another community college that's interested, and we have a third community college that's local that we're also attempting to look at. But we're really looking at everything you can see here, and we're really looking at what is our mission and our vision. All of this will be coming to you for a vote, because you actually control the makeup of Stoughton Academy. That's how this program started, is it came through the school committee as an alternative education process.
I'm sorry, is there a school committee member that's on that working group?
Not yet, nope, not yet.
There will be.
There will be.
When?
As soon as you'd like to put one in there. We do meet during the day, but, we can, facilitate that if needed by subcommittee work and all that stuff. So we'll ask for a member.
Yeah, should be.
And then the other part is, as you can see, our bulleted items are pretty extensive. We're looking at both career vocational technical education, which would be your CVTE, that's traditional vocational school concepts, and then you get your CTE, career technical education, where the students can't get they can only get certain certificates of completion, but they're not literally a vocational program. And then we've put online in there, stream additional hours, leadership structure, registration process, multilingual learners, what you learned about adult education, and then credit recovery we put in there as well. So really
Who
excited about
spearheaded this?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I broke you up, but
That's okay.
I wanted to make sure I get it in. Who spearheaded this?
Me.
So good, so
My-
great.
Thank you. My goal is to give it to the superintendent-elect.
Who will
And
also be great.
Well, that's why she's on the working committee.
No, she will
So
be
thank
great
you
at
for all of
this.
that,
This
Mr.
is
Chair.
amazing, thank you.
We hope to get you a good itemized report by the spring.
Fabulous, nice job, thank you.
Okay. Next item, communication to the school committee. There was none, except for that one letter that came in that was covered under the public comments. Warrants.
Oh, that wasn't, no. I do have some questions about that communication. So that I'm sorry if you needed more time to discuss it, or if you want me to just go in.
No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the communication you're talking about is from the select board, right? That we sent to
No,
the
no, we're
select board?
talking,
we're talking about the Mrs. Small's comments from the.
Oh, my mistake. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about the because we're in communications. And this is a communication from the select board.
It's on the next item.
That's on the next one. Okay, thank you. My apologies.
Financial update. Submitted with the packet is a list of warrants that were reviewed and approved for the record. Now we're talking about the
Thank you.
letter to the select board. I was given with the awesome task of writing the letter and sending it to the select board to request that the school committee and superintendent be included in their policy, financial policy that they're putting together now and not at the end of it. And that letter has been sent to the select board members, and I haven't heard anything back yet, but hope to hear from them soon.
This was not the letter.
What do you mean?
Is this the letter or not the letter?
That
That
is
is the letter.
The 11,
Okay, I thought you said it would be the letter. Okay, so I have a letter submitted to us on Tuesday, November 4th. The school committee voted to respectfully but firmly request a full partnership with the town in drafting the town's first financial policy. I've heard of it called the Collins policy, or the Collins report. So, I'm sorry?
That's not it, that's a different thing.
That's a different thing. That's different from the financial policy?
You're talking about the budget, right, the town budget?
No.
no, they're talking, I think this has to do with the financial policy that's
The
coming as a
Collins
report from the Collins report.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So this action followed an this is my question, Mr. Barbosa.
Sure,
You
Ms.
you
Clerk.
wrote this.
I did.
You wrote this. Okay. This says, this action followed an earlier request for school committee participation. So there was an earlier request, so this is in direct result of the vote that we had at the last meeting where we said that we wanted participation and asked you to write a letter to
Yep.
them. And then this says, this action followed an earlier request.
It does both. Dr. Byetta did have a dialogue with the town manager, and the town manager, from what I
When was
understand.
that?
From what I understand, it was that the reply we got from the town manager was that we'll let the school committee get involved after we've got the policy together. So that included both, and also the vote we took.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask it again. We voted to have you send this letter, and so this is the letter that you sent them?
Yes.
Okay. And then it says something about an earlier request for school committee. So when was the earlier request? Because the only request that I knew of was the one that we voted on at our last meeting. So when was the earlier request that was rejected by the town manager?
Dr. Byetta?
Yeah, I don't have a reject, so let's get back here for a second. There was a meeting prior to the vote where a person came to the meeting, spoke at the meeting around that there's a Collins report taking place. I said to the committee that I would reach out to the town manager. I reached out to the town manager, and he says you'll get a copy of it when I get a copy of it, which still hasn't happened, by the way. As far as I know, as of last week, it still hadn't happened.
As I understand.
So
it
then
isn't
we-
out yet.
Then you folks held a meeting and took a formal vote. You put it on the agenda, and then you took a formal vote to have the vice chair of the committee send a memo to, I believe it was going to Mr. Cavey and the town manager, but I could be wrong. I think the idea was to go to the select board. And then that, this was the letter that went. So I think that maybe I'll just be very blunt. I think the word that you're using is that was something rejected by the town manager. I personally did not get a rejection from the town manager.
Well, that's what it says. That was rejected by the town
I-
manager.
no, I-
With the suggestion that our involvement would occur only after the policy had already been finalized.
And I don't, so I think we're using the word policy here and the Collins report intertwined, and they're different. I think we're going to get a Collins report that has recommendations for policy, and then the select board the intent that, it's my understanding from the town manager's mouth to my ears and back to him from me, that once they received the Collins report, that the Collins report would be shared with the school committee and the superintendent. That's my understanding till this day, and that's my understanding as of a week ago.
Okay.
In between there, the general establishment is, we asked for, through Armando, Mr. Barboza, we asked for the financial policy. I think what we're doing is we're utilizing the word financial policy and the Collins report intertwined, and they're actually, I think, more separated. You're gonna get a Collins report. If you remember, I provided to you an example of one town's report. It was just the executive, what they're gonna do, and it's outlined, it has blah, 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 and then it goes across when you're gonna do it, who's doing it, so on and so forth. From that, you could get policy. I have since looked at numerous other Collins reports. I am not seeing school committee stuff on there. I am seeing internal process for things like making sure that our bills are paid on time, making sure that warrants are signed within X number of days. Those things I've seen. Those things are always going to be under the control of the town side. They're never going to be under our control, because that's how we pay our bills. Right? You got to follow somebody else's rules to pay the bills. It is what it is. In terms of budgeting process and all of that, you can't have a policy that takes away the power and authority of the school committee as a duly elected board. So you're not going to have that. I've been reading them just in my spare time, flipping through them. I haven't read them cover to cover, but I'm looking for words like school committee on it to see if I just haven't seen them. I'm not protecting anybody. I'm just simply saying I haven't seen them. So I think that we are in a waiting pattern to see what this Collins report says, and then from there, you will all be able to read it and see it. I believe this came from a question of Mr. Laurie, who was here at a meeting that said that the Finance Committee Chair had asked to make sure that she gets it, and I think it became you, Ms. Powers, who said, well, darn it, we should be getting it as well. And
So
the
this is
conversation's
going to
still
be
there.
100-some-odd page financial policy. 100 pages.
I think it'll be a
somewhere in
report
that
with some
range.
policy requests in it.
My understanding is that it's going to be a substantial policy that two people are putting together for the town, that if my understanding is right, that the select board will, I believe the plan is sometime this month or next month for them to vote in. So I know that the Finance Committee did say, hey, wait a minute, we want a chance to look at this before you vote it, because we want to look at it, because we're FinCom, and we should. And I don't think it's out of the norm that we should at least have a look at it to say, is there anything in this financial policy, this large financial policy, that says school committee? So, yeah, absolutely, I think that we should have, and it did mess me up a little bit when it said an earlier request and rejected by the town manager with a suggestion that our involvement would only, it was interesting. So then it said, the school committee is requesting that the select board formally direct the creation of a joint working group?
Sure.
Is that what we are requesting?
That was my understanding. We want to be able to be involved as they form this policy. Did
I'm
you
not-
not want to be involved in that? Was the intent
Well,
differently?
I would certainly want to look at this financial policy before they vote on it to see what the school committee's role in that is. A formal working group, it would be nice, listen, it would be nice to have a tri-committee working group, between FinCom, school committee, and the select board, because we all have a financial interest in the millions of dollars that the taxpayers give us every year. So, we do ours, they do theirs, we work it out, it kind of goes back and forth, this push-pull up and down Pearl Street, and then finally FinCom gets it in town meeting, It's an interesting, so I had some questions on this, but I'm happy to either just give it a wait and see, and if we hear that the financial policy has come out, and we haven't still heard from our counterparts, maybe we may vote to ask our liaison to again ask to see it. I don't know if we need a working group, but to at least, that's was just, we ought to be able to have some eyes on it, to be able to have some kind of say if we see something that is concerning to us.
Are you interested in seeing it after it's complete or during the process?
Oh,
Because
no,
the letter
we
was,
should
we'd like to see it during the process, so we don't wait until the end, and then it's set in stone, or we voted on it, and there's no changes that can be done easily.
Yeah, I hear you, Mr. Barbosa, I
And
hear you.
I'm thinking of the, when we have to submit the budget and the bylaws related to that, which gives you headaches every single year because we have to submit it before we know the numbers. I'm hoping, whatever the policy is, we can avoid that type of a restraint or constraint on the school committee and the budget.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? What do you,
The town has a policy in which the budget, the school budget
That's the charter.
submitted, or
That's the
charter.
Charter has one.
Charter.
yeah?
It
No, I
submits-
understand the charter has certain time constraints.
Correct. And that's before the school has all the numbers in to determine what what the budget should look like.
Yeah, but that's the budget. We're talking about the financial policy changes that are
Yes,
coming out.
I'm saying, I don't think we should get in a situation where something is set again in the town's policy in which causes more headaches for the school.
Oh, yeah, so you're.
And watching it,
Yes, sir.
going through the process and seeing how it's
Yeah,
built.
I'm in agreement.
We can
Absolutely.
avoid
Which is
some of
why we
these.
should have eyes on, yes.
Right, exactly.
Yes, sir, yep.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, from my perspective, a couple of things, and if you disagree as a committee or individually, that's fine. So, the Collins report is a, if you will, best practices report where it's pretty much a, if you will, this is what we think best practices should be for a community. How are you doing at Stoughton? Where are your holes? And this is what we're going to recommend to you. Those recommendations come down to an impact of law, regulations, and the town charter. Those will be the three things that we have to follow, right? So the law for the school committee is going to supersede the town charter. It's going to supersede anything and everything because that's the law. It's the state law that you are the governing body. What you decide to spend and move forward in public schools is up to you, and then your job is to present that, defend it, go to town meeting and get a vote. That's the process. If you remember, if you recall, there's been a lot of discussions around the word policy by certain members of the Finance Committee. We need a policy for this, we need a policy for that. The Collins report was one way of trying to figure out what are the policies that we have and don't have in Stoughton that are part of the, quote, best practices of the town. Whatever that target area it is. Beyond money, could be hiring process, could be, any of that stuff. They will get that report, and then it's my direct understanding numerous times now, and I have no reason to not believe him, that we will get a copy before anything is said or done.
Before the vote.
Before anything is said or done. That's my understanding. And that's been said to be numerous times. I have to accept that as the truth, and I believe I am going to get a copy from Tom and the select board. And if I
Mr.
get a
Coulter
copy.
from the town manager.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Coulter, I will, and the moment I get it, I won't even open it. I will directly send it to you and say, here it is. Would you like it in a hard copy? I'll have it, ready for you in the next 24 hours. And then we can all put our eyes on it in any way, shape, or form and say, does this impact the school committee, yes or no? And what I'll do internally is I will put a couple of our folks on it. Heidi will be one, I will be another, probably Julie, probably Matt, probably Jonathan, probably the five of us, excluding the five of you, will put our eyes on it and say, is there anything here that we believe has any type of a potential impact on the school department?
Thank you.
From there, we will provide that feedback to the powers that be. If it doesn't violate state law or the town charter, there could be a potential that something changes. But you are the governing body of the school department, not anybody else.
Yep.
The only people you answer to are two, literally. A, the taxpayer, because that's how you get elected and that's who you represent, and B, town meeting where you need a vote. And I'm not saying that to disrespect any of the other appointed or elected boards. That's just the regulation.
That's just the
We
law.
want to be part of the team that is doing the best interest of Stoughton, because there's only so much money to go around, and there's many headaches to go around, and there's only so many headaches we can solve every year. It's that simple. So I am trusting that I am receiving something before anything's done. I stand by that. I have no reason to believe that I shouldn't stand by that. And if I have to eat crow, then I eat crow, but the fact of the matter, I don't believe I'm going to be eating crow. Plus, I don't like crow. I like turkey. Although I had a lot of it this week. So that's where I
We'll
stand.
be keeping
So,
our eyes out, too.
yes, and as
Thank
like I
you
said,
for that.
As
Very
soon as
well
I get
said.
it, as soon as I get it, you will be the first to receive it.
Appreciate all of it.
You bet.
Okay, any other discussions on that?
No, thank you.
Okay, next, let's look at the meeting minutes from November 18th. Do we have any comments or amendments to that meeting minutes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept the meeting minutes?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Karen?
Before you vote, can I just make a comment?
Sure, yes.
Or can I just ask? Has nothing to do. Is it better streamlined?
I like it better.
Okay.
Oh, these minutes are way better.
I want to
Thank
publicly
you.
thank our colleague, Nicole, who does all of this for you.
100%.
So this is our first updated, cleanest one, so thanks to her for her work after I met briefly on the phone with her, because she was already doing it, so.
Appreciate
I want to
everything she
publicly
does.
thank her for doing this as well, so
Yep.
thank you.
Roll call vote?
Aye.
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 4-0, thank you. Our next meeting, the next meeting of the school committee is for December 9th, 2025, at 6 PM. It will be a virtual meeting. You'll find the meeting link in the agenda and also in the Friday's Stoughton Public School newsletter.
I have a question on that. When did we vote to make that virtual? We can do that in here. Why does it have to be virtual? It's a budget. It's a lot, we'll have a lot of questions. I mean, did anyone say are we not going to have a quorum? Why is it virtual?
I
I
believe it
mean, we
was,
didn't vote to make that virtual.
no, there will be a public hearing for the budget.
No, that isn't the question. There's no reason to go virtual. We're supposed to be in the meeting. This is our job for the town, is to sit here. And the reason why we had virtual meetings is because of COVID. Or because maybe, there were times that someone couldn't make it, and so we would go virtual. But this shouldn't be like a regular thing, like someone arbitrarily decides that okay, this is gonna be regular, this is gonna be virtual, this is gonna be special. That unless there's extenuating circumstances, there's no reason for it to be a virtual meeting. Were there extenuating circumstances?
Do you have a motion?
I make a motion that we have this an in-person meeting.
A motion is made to have this in-person meeting. Do I have a second?
Then I would counter that we never voted to make it a virtual meeting. And all meetings are supposed to be here. We never said we wanted this, so does someone want to make a motion that it's a virtual meeting? Because I don't know who's making this decision, but we didn't make it as a committee. We don't have a boss, we don't have a master. We vote on these things.
I've never voted on a virtual meeting. My other committees that I'm in, they just tell us it's going to be virtual.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be here in person, and then there might be times when the chair might know that everyone can't make it, and so they make it a virtual. But there's no reason to make it a virtual unless we decide as a committee.
I'm okay with it being virtual.
Then at least it's a vote of the committee.
That's fine. Do you want to make the motion?
I would like to make a motion to keep it as a virtual meeting.
As a first, second? Second? Roll call vote?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
3-0, the motion carries.
310.
3-1-0?
Yep.
Okay, the meeting after that will be on, about the budget, it'll be an open
Public hearing.
public hearing, and that will take place here on December 16th at 6 PM. And the next regular scheduled meeting will be on January 13th, 2027, and also take place here.
And just clarification, because I didn't see that on here, the 16th is a hearing, a public hearing.
Yeah, the following
public-
meeting will be a public hearing.
Okay, so public hearing means the public is invited to talk about it.
Yeah, a public hearing under the statute is published for 2 weeks ahead of time in the local media and all of that stuff, plus the traditional ways that we post hearings. And the intent of it is that the governing body, in this case the school committee, is hearing the recommended budget and is hearing from anyone who wants to attend that meeting.
So the public invited to speak.
Yep, so it's
which
not
is
it's-
unusual.
Right, it's not a traditional public comment time. It's
Right.
literally, we open the meeting, you move into the FY17, and you wait out to see if anybody attends and has questions about it. And you attempt to answer those questions then and there, or get questions answered back to those individual or group of, I usually just publish the questions if we're getting it back to them, especially because we have another due date of getting the district budget done by the 31st.
If I remember right, we had more than one public hearing last year.
You only have one public hearing that's literally posted, and then what we had is, we had a budget hearing because we changed our budget once the state money
Okay.
came out.
Yep.
And we voted a second
Thank
budget.
you.
Yep.
Okay, yep.
And just to let
Maybe
you,
you're thinking, we had some online questions and answer about the school
yeah, so,
building. We had that,
Right.
which was open to the public.
Maybe.
right.
Yeah.
And we'll do what's called, public meetings, all the way until we go to FinCom. I usually put myself out there. This case, Julie will be with me, and we just kind of like, hey, here's a virtual meeting if people want to, discuss the
with you.
budget at all.
Yep.
The other
Just want to
thing.
make sure public knows that they have
Yeah.
a say, they can
Yep.
look at it, discuss it.
Yeah, and it'll be a moving target for quite a while, right? As you know, last year was as well. You did have a blue folder that's in front of you that's dated 11/25. That's the latest budget. That's going to change. You will get a different hard copy prior to next week's meeting, I'm hoping by Friday, because we have 2 more meetings tomorrow and Thursday with the working group. Right now, the bottom number is not going to change. It's just making sure that things are accurate within the line items as much as possible. Okay?
Any additional questions? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Dr. Sears, Jillian.
And I'll say, well done, Mr. Barbosa. Thank you. Excellent meeting. It was nice. It was a breath of fresh air. Appreciate it. Always knew you could do it.
No, we didn't vote yet.
No, but I'm still congratulating
Roll
you.
call vote?
In public meeting still.
Aye.
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 The motion carries. We're adjourned.
8.